For all my singles out there, you have done an excellent job clearing the board and turning that attention, all of that love that you'd hoped to experience from another person that didn't quite work out, didn't come through as expected, how you have poured that back into yourself has cleared your energy in a magnificent way. And you are getting ready to encounter a new suitor, somebody that resonates with this vibration of you, somebody that it feels like is very unlike anybody you have experienced before, either in terms of the way that you meet this person. There may be something kind of unusual about that. You meet them in an environment that you wouldn't normally expect to find love in. There may also be something about the pace of this connection that is very different from experiences that you've had in the past. It also feels to be something where if you have a tendency to kind of get sucked into cycles of limerence, times where you've gotten your hopes up, you've been very expectant that things are going to move forward. You're the one that becomes emotionally invested first, and the other person either doesn't have the intention or the capacity to reciprocate completely, or they change their mind, or there's more to the story, other kind of things going on that has sort of led to heartbreak and disappointment on your part, kind of getting your hopes up very high only to be deflated. It feels like the way in which you respond to this person, the part of you that kind of comes online in conjunction with what it is that they're presenting, what it is that they are showing you and demonstrating to you that they are willing to bring to the table, and even just kind of that initial spark and sort of the first few encounters that you have with one another, first few conversations, or this can be somebody that you kind of encounter in your day-to-day reality or semi-regularly. It feels like you're going to be really surprised, and it's almost going to be unrecognizable how you respond to this. Something where you won't have to, it feels like, sort of will yourself to hold your feelings back, or have to remind yourself okay, let this person sort of prove that they are really interested, let them take action, and then I will respond accordingly. Anything where you've had to try to really coach yourself through that process, or maybe you learned some painful lessons and so you've set that intention, I'm not going down that road again with another person. This is something that it feels like this individual that you're getting ready to align with, for most of you, this isn't anybody that's in your life right now, but they're near on the horizon. It's next up, next in line, next applicant, next candidate, next person. This is somebody that's waiting in the wings of your life. Not a secret admirer, but it's almost like steps forward that you need to take, maybe just calendar time that needs to pass, something where this is someone that comes in literally in the next season. So for those of you in the northern hemisphere, this might be somebody coming in spring, summertime. Those of you in the southern hemisphere, this would be somebody coming in autumn or winter. So they're very near in proximity to you. And it feels like so many things about this situation, just internally, with how you sort of register it, the stance that you take in this circumstance, it's going to let you know, you're going to be giving yourself a lot of reassurance, it feels like, very early on, that hey, this feels different. I'm showing up in a different sort of way. My nervous system isn't a wreck around this person. I'm not obsessively thinking about what's going to happen next. What are they going to do? They don't leave me with a whole lot of questions, but I'm also not inclined to sort of, wait until it gets into that territory of trying to pick apart sort of what they're showing or what they're saying. So it feels like everything about this circumstance, mainly from your perspective, from your stance, from the version of you that is coming forth in this situation, that's going to be the thing that lets you know, hey, I've stepped into a new timeline. I have successfully kind of shed the aspects of the past that had kept me bound to certain cycles, or repeating certain lessons with various people, or kind of something that sort of systematically popped up in your dealings with others, getting those hopes up really high really quickly, only to have that huge letdown. Everything with this circumstance and with this new person coming in, it's going to elicit a very different reaction in you naturally. You're not going to have to force that. You're not going to have to dig your heels in or pump the brakes in the situation. It's almost like the way in which they kind of maybe naturally through their energy or through their even their efforts kind of encourage you to soften, encourage you to trust. Or this could be somebody that is a little more reserved in their approach. They're matching your energy. So if you're a bit hesitant, they're a bit hesitant. If you are opening up, they are opening up. They're matching you, they're mirroring you in that sense, which may make you feel you have a little more control over this circumstance than people previously that you didn't know if they were coming or going, what their true intentions were, if you could really kind of believe what they were showing you, things that might have been kind of proven otherwise in sort of a more longer term sense, or again, like a lot of letdowns that you might have had. So the first one we have is enter the conversation. So it feels like this is something where it begins as a talking stage. This can be something where you're having, face-to-face conversations, interactions of that nature. It feels to be something that if that's the case, it's kind of like, this doesn't feel like coworker energy, but it feels like something that would be just in like a shared social setting. So this may be somebody that's part of like a new member of a friend group or some kind of social activity that you do, somebody that's kind of out and about that you're able to have small talk with, and so you start that way, but there's romantic potential within this, so that might even be something that helps to kind of like lay the roots or the foundation of something that can be a little more satisfying, because you kind of take the time to get to know one another before those feelings sort of rise or erupt within you. It feels like this can also be something where there's a lot of kind of varied communication. So texting, there's DMs on social media. This person's really good about checking in. This is a person, it feels like, that will go out of their way to make sure that even if it's little bits of communication, they're not sending you whole paragraphs, that it's like you're hearing from them on a regular basis. They're not maybe following some kind of etiquette or decorum that's like, oh, I gotta wait a couple of days, in between sending messages, or especially in like the early phases of your interactions with one another. Like, I have to wait a day or two after, we've gone out on a date, or after we had like a really in-depth conversation, so I don't seem too eager, so I don't seem too forward. Like, this is somebody that doesn't play by that rule book. They don't care if they're gonna double text you in one day. They don't care if you've had like a 3-hour conversation, until you both hang up and go to bed, and then you're the first thing that they kind of reach for their phone and send you that good morning text in the morning. They don't care about that. They're aware of the social sort of standards or protocol, but there's a sense of like, that doesn't really fit in with what feels comfortable with me. I don't want to do that. And so this may be somebody that would almost be considered like a Sigma personality, somebody that, is kind of like they play by their own rule book. They kind of, operate according to their own code. They're not going to be told what to do. They see what other people are doing and they're going to do it anyway. So there may even be something about this connection between the two of you, or dynamics between the two of you, that is kind of like, there could be an age difference between the two of you, something as far as maybe even like a cultural difference, a religious difference, things that if you'd been dealing with people previously where that had been like a hindrance or an obstacle or a challenge, this person is going to see that and be like, yeah, I acknowledge that that's there. I don't care. I'm still interested in you. I'm still going to give this a chance. I'm still going to put myself out there as far as you're concerned. So it's almost like this person makes up for the lack of effort that you were dealing with previous people, that helps you to kind of come to this place like, oh, okay, I just needed to wait for the right person, who is going to see me as enough motivation, as enough incentive. Like, I'm the carrot on the string dangled in front of their face, and they're going to reach towards it. They're going to take action towards me. We also have share your bounty. Yeah, so it feels like you and this person are going to have a lot more in common than you would imagine. A lot of things that are very similar, very kind of like you've had very similar experiences in your past, a similar backstory, shared kind of like motivation, shared struggles that you each had sort of like experienced differently, and it had made you kind of choose different things, grow in different directions. You've almost been like ships passing in the night in terms of the nature of these experiences. Like, you were going through a challenge or an opportunity for personal growth and evolution, and this person was maybe, kind of operating in just sort of like a plateaued energy, or maybe their life was in kind of a downturn before they had their breakthrough. And it's like you've crisscrossed through these different kind of aspects of what it means to have like a human experience, a well-rounded human experience, the adventure of it all, both the victories and the challenges. And so it feels like there's something where you're really going to understand beyond kind of words, sort of where the other person is coming from, things that would have kind of motivated, certain aspects of their character to be refined as they are, or things that they are just like, these are absolute deal breakers for me. It feels like a lot of those same things that they're like, I don't want that in my life. That's something that applies for you as well. If you're somebody that doesn't have kids, doesn't want kids, it feels like this is somebody that also doesn't have kids, doesn't want kids. If this is something where you don't believe in traditional marriage, you're just sort of like, I'm into a long-term partnership, that's all I want. This person's like, great, me too. I've had that idea as well. And it's so hard to find somebody that's in alignment with that. Things that may definitely be kind of like outside of what would be sort of like traditional paths to wish fulfillment and happiness. This person and you are going to align very deeply with those things. Something where, again, you and them are going to feel like, I'm not asking for too much. It was maybe just asking the wrong people. That kind of population of sort of wonderful suitors and potential candidates for romance that fit into what I want as a person, what I want to experience as my version of happily ever after, in the here and now, as realistic and fantastical as that can be. This person is somebody that's like, yeah, I'm moving in that direction too. I like what you are saying. I like what your ideas are about these things, because these are my ideas too. I'm pointed in that direction as well. So it feels like this is a circumstance where it's going to be, obviously you're two different people. There's different personalities. You're going to have these areas where you collide and areas where you clash. That's kind of the establishment of one's individuality from another. But it feels like there's going to be a lot that is very harmonized between the two of you. Not just we want the same things, but kind of your reasons for that, your motivations for that, and the things that you are choosing to kind of fill the spaces with, on the other side of like choices that you don't want to make, things that you don't want to call into your reality. You and this person as well may both resonate as like the black sheep of your families, or the goats of your family, however you want to think about that, wherever you are on that sort of journey and its relationship to yourself, to where this is almost something where if this evolves into like a long-term romance, a long-term partnership, this is something that this could be the beginning of developing like a found family. You kind of create a unique home with one another, something that's very different from what you've experienced growing up, or that you've seen modeled in kind of the lives of people around you, people you love, people you care about. This is something that it's the opportunity for a very different experience of harmony together with one another. We also have leap like you mean it. So it feels like this is a very direct person. This is somebody that doesn't make promises lightly. They are going to, tell you like, I'm not ready to talk about that. I'm not ready to commit to that. If I say I'm going to do something, or I take a step forward, I intend to see that through to a place of fruition. So those boundaries may be something that is like, you are literally putting one foot in front of the other with this person. It's like a journey to the experience of, the epitome of what can happen, but it feels like it's something that they're consistent enough with their communication of sort of like, this is all I'm comfortable with, this is all I'm looking for right now, this is all I'm ready for. But it's not just like, I want to stick to the shallow end. It's kind of like, we need to take time to wade out into those depths with one another. And it's something that the way in which they express themselves very directly, where there's nothing, left to mystery, where they're good on that communication, keeping in touch with you, letting you know kind of what's going on, or just that they're thinking about you, kind of what's going on in their day. They make dates, promises to kind of meet up or talk. They keep that, they honor that, they follow through on that. Where very gradually this is something that, like, this seed of potential blossoms into something that can be very satisfying, either a long-term connection or something where if you end up going your separate ways at a certain point in time, you will feel like that wasn't a waste of time. That was actually a positive experience. This is something that you might even remain friends with this person if at a certain point you decide, hey, there's chemistry, there's attraction here, but in a long-term sense, maybe I just kind of want to continue to go it alone, or this isn't exactly what I'm looking for. It's not like this person just sort of drops off the face of the planet. They still remain friendly with you. So if nothing else, then it's like you've made a new friend, but there's definitely like a stage. It feels like they're coming in a romantic energy. So there's an exploration of that, but it feels like it's something that works on both of your terms. It's a very positive experience for the both of you. This person might actually also be somebody, for those of you that this doesn't kind of like develop into, okay, things are going to get more serious, this is going to turn more into like a partnership. This could be the person that like introduces you to your long-term partner, to that next significant romance for you. Something where it's like, okay, we tried dating, we're better off as friends, and then they're like, hey, maybe you should meet my cousin though, or meet my buddy, something like that, where it's kind of like, this isn't just going to be chalked up as a loss if it turns out to be something that is just seasonal in nature. And we also have make space for change. Yeah, so this is something where everything that you've been trying to kind of like cultivate inside of yourself in terms of better boundaries, better discernment, you've been doing that shadow work within to kind of like heal wounds of the past and make sure that you're creating like a better set of skills so that you can make better choices as far as like what you tolerate, what you put up with, who you're attracting into your life, who you're allowing into your life, and when you kind of show people the door, you kick them out when they're not kind of meeting your needs and requirements. All that you've done, all of that heavy lifting, in addition to kind of just like willing a new version of yourself to be, or making that very kind of like determined promise to yourself and following it through. Like, I can't just blame all these other people. I can't just say, oh, it's all these men out there that are giving me a negative experience in love and in romance. If I'm having a negative experience with them, what is something inside of myself that I can do to make sure that I'm not having experiences with that kind of segment of the population? Not everyone is operating on that same kind of plane of disappointment. So anything that you've kind of done from, experiences that left a bad taste in your mouth, that left you with regrets, that were a waste of time, or, where there was some kind of like trickery or deception involved, and you couldn't have seen it coming if you had looked at it with a microscope, and still you ended up brokenhearted. Anything that you've done to not move into a place of being embittered, but, taking the time to feel that frustration, that sacred rage, that hurt, that sorrow, that sadness, but then as you've picked yourself up and not move forward in bitterness, but kind of like, okay, so that was what it was. It is what it is. What can I do to learn from this? What's the lesson here? What's something that I can do to guarantee that I'm choosing a better person in the future, that I'm listening to my gut, I'm listening to my instincts, I'm seeing the red flags and not overlooking those things. I'm not trying to like call someone into my reality with the intention of like, oh, I'll fix them, my love will make it all better, or they'll change for me. Like, if you've done that before, if you've been a caretaker for other people before, and it's just left you in the energy of loss, anything that you've done to make sure like you are demanding reciprocity with your energy and with your efforts. You are setting the tone and the template for like, this is what I expect because this is what I provide. This is what I demand because I know what I bring to the table, and not in a place where you're like entitled and just sort of like, fall at my feet and worship me, but something where it's like mutual respect is exchanged. And the minute that disrespect comes in, where you're shutting the door to something or you're addressing it like at face value at that moment in time, all of that is something that, in addition to kind of like bringing you into a more empowered state or what has been necessary for your healing, it's also activated certain aspects inside of yourself. It feels like it's really going to surprise you how you're showing up in this situation, and how this person is just kind of, they're in the flow of it. They're receptive to it. It's in alignment with sort of like, yeah, I like this empowered approach. This is what I was looking for in somebody to kind of like share my time and energy with. This person may be somebody who's just, they're not looking to be friends with everyone. This may be somebody that, they're really good about kind of like, this person's a friend, this person's an acquaintance, this person is somebody that I'm just familiar with. They're not kind of like inviting everyone someone in. This is somebody that it feels like prefers quality over quantity, and maybe you've reached that place in your life as well. You've learned how to categorize different relationships, where to give your time and effort, where to kind of, keep those healthy boundaries, or even just sort of respect or, love someone from a distance. All of that has opened this portal of potential through which this like new you is coming on board, coming online, and it's this new version of you that is interacting with, that is calling in, that is getting ready to meet this person that is like a step in a new direction. It's a better experience with a potential romantic partner, or with someone that turns into that long-term romantic partnership, or is kind of the middleman for that, meeting that person. It's kind of like, it might not work out with this individual, but they're like, I know someone that you might be interested in. Why don't you meet this other person? Something where it wouldn't be like overstepping any boundaries, but they'd like give you their blessing, kind of like you two would be good together. Something that, for a lot of you, it's like you're closer to that deeply satisfying relationship than you even expect, or than you even know at this point. And it's through the embodiment of this kind of like upgraded version of you, this healed version of you, that you're able to call in and experience what it is to have kind of a more deep and meaningful exchange with another person. Yeah, and we also have court the subconscious. So again, there's a lot of mirroring going on between you and this new person. Very similar journeys of hope and disappointment that have been approached in different sorts of ways, but it's the same themes, it's the same lessons. You got the same standards. You both, it feels like, have had to raise your standards, or in some point in time confront your shadow and be like, hey, I was settling. I didn't deserve what happened to me, but I also knew better than to let someone like that get in so close. To give my heart to someone that wasn't reciprocating, or something felt off, or there were signs early on in the connection that it wasn't going to turn out well. I ignored that. I stuck around and it all collapsed. You both have a story like this, or a series of stories like this, that it feels like this is the energy of like two people who have had to cultivate a higher degree of self-respect than they had in an earlier chapter in their lives. And so you're bringing that sense of personal empowerment to the table for one another, that it feels like is going to be able to allow you both to connect more honestly, and therefore have the potential to connect more deeply than you have with anyone previously, or anyone else in a while. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. Like or comment to claim these energies. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content that I put out here. Don't forget to hit the bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. And if you would like to book a personal reading with me, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.